aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through.
And good morning, afternoon, good evening, all of the above. Whenever you're listening to it, however you're listening to us. This is the Frankie Nieto show, or Frankie Nieto. It all depends how you pronounce it. I really don't care. It's how you read it. But you know who I am. You know what I do. And it's great to be back on the air. It was annoying being off for a week. Thanks to Steve and the whole FBGlive crew for covering my absentee. This week, we're going to talk about homeschooling and the advantages of the way I see it. And I'm guessing I'm not the only one who see it, because according to recent polls, homeschooling since 1999 is increased by 75%. Taking personal responsibility of being involved in your child's life and your child's education. That's the word I'm looking for here. What type of, ethics and morals, or kind of moral code that you develop through, well, you develop certain things, habits, and traits by the interactions of people that you meet in throughout your life. Yeah. So, but what I have coming up here in roughly 3 weeks, we're looking at July 10th. We are going to be, well, I keep on saying we, and like I said, it's me. So, me and my split personalities. So what we're going to do is do something called, the event's going to be called the Quality Education Summit. And we're looking for July the 10th. We're going to have some great keynote speakers. Catherine Bleich, I hope I'm saying it right, and John Bush will be there. And hopefully we'll have other members of the local homeschooling here in Fredericksburg. Because remember, this is FBGlive, and it's Fredericksburg Live. So we have to have everything besides just the FBGlive crew. We have to have other members of Fredericksburg. The event will go on around 6, and it will, like I said, be Wednesday. We're shooting for the Fredericksburg Brewery Company's back room, but if all else fails, we'll be at the Ag building, because after all, we should be allowed to use either building, right? Well, maybe. Other news, I want to talk about something real quick, something that caught my nerve this week. Here in Fredericksburg, but this town has a very ugly plague in it, and that's cop obsession, cop love. The story I want to bring to everyone's attention, because it probably didn't pay attention to it, but it happened in Austin. On Tuesday, a jury was reached a verdict siding with the city of Austin in the civil trial against Officer Nathan Wagner, who shot and killed a 20-year-old young man by the name of Byron Carter on May 30th, 2011. Wagner shot and killed Carter after Carter and his friend attempted to drive away in their car as two unannounced armed men, Officer Wagner and Rodriguez, approached their car. Neither of the young men were armed or suspected of any crime. Like I said, well, apparently Austin has the same problem too with being in love with police officers and cops, of the gang mentality that is the blue uniform. And so my question, and the reason why I bring it up, is because how can you justify murder just because they're in a uniform? And we tell the Bloods and the Crips and the Mexican Mafia, it's okay because y'all are all part of the same group. Y'all all wear the same uniform. And it applies, because how would you put yourself in that young man's situation? How would you react if someone with a gun, who's not announcing who they are, start approaching your vehicle in the middle of the night? What would you do? Oh, I forgot. This is Fredericksburg. You bow down and kiss the cop's feet. But that's not what I really want to talk about. Like I said, we're going to talk about homeschooling. But, if you ask me, one tentacle of the federal government is just as bad as the next one. We're trying something new here at FBGlive. We got the entire crew is right here in the room with us while we're doing this. This is a very weird experience. Everybody's kind of just staring at me, not saying anything. And I guess this is what it kind of looks like if I was able to listen to the radio audience, that people were as hell when they looked at me, because that's what everybody here looks like. But let's see if I can get anybody here to chime in.
Why would we talk? You look so great.
Yeah, you're so fluent.
Fluent. Articulate.
Yeah.
So what was happening with this kid, right? So you talked a few minutes ago about the kid that was stopped, and there was a jury thingy, but I didn't quite understand the story. So the story goes, the police pulled over a car?
No, see, they were already pulled over. They were in a parking lot, right?
Okay, so they were chilling somewhere.
They were just chilling. Brian Carter was the passenger, and there was another, I don't know the other young man's name, but the driver. And he was wounded. But
So so they're sitting in a car, and then the police came over and started shooting. Is that
well,
what
they
happened?
started coming over and they did announce themselves. That one of the individuals, one of the male individuals, even Byron Carter or the other one, said, "Hey, who's that? Come in here." They noticed that they had a gun. You know, they noticed that they were armed.
plainclothes police, or were they?
You
in
know,
their
the article
little
really doesn't go into it.
blue
No article really talked about it. Actually, I looked for KXNN. That last one I was reading off was from the
Isn't
Liberty
it
Bee.
funny how you can get all sorts of the same details reformatted, but you can't find out where they were parked? Were they in front of their own house listening to music, or
Right.
were they, on some shady, dark street? What actually happened? But the news, the traditional news, seems to lack that information. And man, it's hard to find that stuff. So they were sitting there, and then they saw these guys approach, and then why did the police start shooting? Did you figure that one out?
Okay, the police started shooting because, like I said, two unarmed, unidentified males are approaching your vehicle, okay? Because, again, I'm trying to put everybody in the perspective. You're the person sitting there in a car.
Right.
Whether you're looking in your phone, answering a text message, however you want to visualize what you were doing in that car, okay? You're not committing a crime, though.
Sure.
There is no crime that says you can't pull over and do stuff in your car, right? I don't think so. Does anybody know?
Well,
There might be. But
here in
anyway,
Fredericksburg, we don't pull over at any time and sit in our vehicles ever. Ever.
no way.
Right. That doesn't happen. we're good. Right?
Okay,
But
so that's what's happening. Okay, so they've pulled over, and like I said, they see these two men approaching. It's dark. It's middle of night. Two men approaching. They could see that they were armed. Maybe they knew it was a cop. Maybe they thought it was a cop and said, "Okay, well, we probably should get out of here because I don't want to deal with the cops. Cops just harass us anyway." Hell, I'd understand what it is to be harassed by a cop just for a simple skin tone.
Right,
Okay.
so you make the assumption that they may or may not have known it was a cop, they
Right.
just knew it was a figure.
Right, approach.
So did they start driving away?
Exactly, and this is what the cops and the defense lawyers use the excuse of. This is what
So
they
if a
use.
car pulls away, they can shoot at it.
Well, because what the cops said, the testimony of the police officers is, we were in fear for our lives because we were worried that they were going to try to run us over. So because of their fear of the attempted, I guess it would be the fear of an attempted vehicular manslaughter, they
Yeah.
decided to open fire.
I know, I've heard that before. What do they say? Officer safety, I
Right.
can do anything I want, or whatever. Yeah, I still don't have enough. I see where you're coming from, but, and I guess, seeing how they twist things so much, I just wonder about the details in particular. Is, were they driving away from the cops? Did they put bullets through the windshield? Did they put bullets through the side of the car, through the back? How did that take place? Because I'd say if I was wanting to get away from two figures that were approaching my car, I'd probably drive away from them, not towards them. And so that would say that the police, they were sitting there approaching a vehicle and they saw it fleeing and they decided to open fire on it.
Right.
And so how could they find him not guilty, right? Well, they found him not guilty because they were feeling unsafe because a car was driving away.
Right.
The whole thing stinks. I understand a lot of your premises there, right? And I don't like having people with guns traveling around trying to help us, right? Because we could end up with a bullet in us, because they're helping. I think more
Wow.
people probably die from interactions with law enforcement than they die on their own. It's pretty dangerous. You can be tased to death. And what's that? That was like San Antonio last week, or, some guy they called the police and he wouldn't let him in their house, so they tased him and tased him and tased him, and then he died. Now they're doing an investigation. What's that investigation of? Oh, how it was handled after they killed him. Right? So they're not going to investigate what happened and why they killed him. No, that was proper. They told us that. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't know.
In the case though, the defense lawyer for Wagner and Rodriguez states the fact that, everyone can agree that police are here to protect the community, but that doesn't mean they don't have the right to protect themselves.
So he lied, because I don't believe that.
Right.
Everybody knows. No, I don't know that.
Right. I'm totally not convinced at
Okay.
all that
So,
police exist
That's
to
either
protect
an
me.
exaggeration or a lie. And I think it's a lie, an overt lie, because he knows all people don't agree. You know, he's out there in Austin. What do we have out in Austin? We have Peaceful Streets. Actually, Peaceful Streets is the epicenter for police accountability. So, yeah, that's an overt lie, a misomission, a non-truth, period. Because, you know, being in Austin, you know Antonio Beeler, right, in the Peaceful Streets,
Right.
by default.
Yep.
If you have anything to say about
Police, right, yeah. of course.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's where I got a lot of that, the little details that I didn't know was from the Liberty Beat, the Peaceful Streets podcast, stuff like that. It's just...
Hey, can I back you up here
Sure.
real quick?
Yeah.
Because while you were talking about homeschooling, I was kind of thinking about, so homeschooling means what? Oh, you do it in your home, right? Whereas the corporate education or whatever, public education, socialized, I don't care what you want to call it, you know, that is supposedly better than homeschooling. The term homeschooling is almost, feels like it's a deprecated term. Like it's lesser than because you're doing it at home, right? The home study course versus what? Somebody teaching you. Homeschooling is I don't think I like the word. You know, and that's all my whole thing is with the homeschooling. I see that word is just wrong.
Kind of like a... Yeah.
It's like a slap in the face because
It's almost
education.
derogatory. It's just
Right.
like...
So in the United States, we started our socialized education system in the early 1900s, right? Providing an education to every kid and building these schools and taxing people to create them. And it did serve a purpose for, you know, articulating the basic stuff, right? How do you read? How do you write? What's the basic science things?
Yeah.
You know, it's very simplistic. But one of the problems that we've got into is, of course, we also use that as a diving board to put in social conditioning, right? And how we're supposed to think and behave. And so for some reason, somebody else has okay, let's just take affirmative action and a lot of other programs like that, gays, and so forth, right? So the federal government takes a stance and says, we want to tell every single kid in the United States that being gay is totally acceptable. And some of the things they go, and I'm not talking bad about gays at all, but I'm just saying it's not their place to be inserting social constructs into public education because that's a mind control method. So they tell everybody, you may be gay, and they repeat that every single year, all year round, right? It's like, well, why are you doing that? Because we need to be kinder to gay people. Well, why do we need to be kinder to gay people? We're good to people in general.
Right.
Why should one group get special attention? So then all of a sudden, you know, it's just those normal things that they kind of induce into it. They'll tell you to call 911.
Right.
Right, you know, for all the good of humanity, just call.
Or anything happens, if anything happens,
Crime
call 911.
stoppers.
Yeah.
Right, you get emails all the time. You know, people saying, "Oh my God, my school just gave me a permission slip, and my kid just filled out a form saying that I'm a terrorist." It's like, oh my God. Those go into a file someplace. Who gets to see that file? Where's your file, Frankie? Have you ever looked at your school records?
No, but I'm curious about what's all in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, naturally, I'm an unconformist as an adult. I've been one since I was a kid. So there's a lot of those behavioral problems. Like if I was a kid today, today's homeschooling, I'd be on so many prescription drugs I'd probably kill myself. Or go on a school shooting, like the insert does say that side effects may be homicidal thoughts, homicidal tendencies, suicidal thoughts, may increase depression. And these are really what it says on the bottles, you know, and it's crazy. But so here, take 2 of these, and hopefully I'll see you next month.
Yeah, I just really find it funny that we have this record at the public school, or
Your permanent
you know,
record, as
and
they
it's
call it.
hidden, right? It's
Yeah.
only visible to who? Educators, right? What's an educator, right? Teachers, any teacher go over there, see the records? I'm not sure. I know Bill Gates has access to that information. Microsoft has access to all student performance data, right? So he can write applications to fit the need, right? Because they're in the education thing. So he's going to make a better version of Microsoft Word to teach you because what? Because you flunked on this test? No, they just dumbed down the test a little bit.
Yeah.
No child
Standardized.
left behind.
Standardizing, socializing.
Yeah.
And there's many pros, many cons. I still have yet found a pro to a whole public education system, but there's many cons to it. And like how you touched on, there is that social indoctrination where they use social issues and the classroom to enforce those issues. Like most kids today are being taught in school. Like there's a school in Dallas that every day the kids do for President's Day, they learned a little Obama poem. And it was like President Resident. You can Google this term and you can find it. But it's like President Resident. Who plays basketball? Obama plays basketball. Da, da, da. And it's just like all hail the Fuhrer type of thing. And it's a school. And it's like, well, should I be teaching my kids this? Which goes along with the Pledge of Allegiance and all of that stuff too, because a couple people probably in this room will stand with me on that one, but I don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. My allegiance is not to any arbitrary country, arbitrary lines drawn on a map that really do not exist in nature. My allegiance would be to the advancement of mankind.
Right.
And don't take it into, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to try to manipulate that into, well, see, he's a global elitist, talking about globalism, and he's not a nationalist. Well, don't you understand that? That's what socialism is called, is nationalism.
Well, I
It's one and
totally
the same.
agree with what you're trying to say there, because the words that you say and the incantations that you put out there, like that Pledge of Allegiance, has anybody really thought about the words and what they mean?
Right.
Freaked me out the first time I actually deconstructed the Pledge of Allegiance. If you sit there and go, I pledge allegiance to the flag, what the heck does that mean? To the flag? Why am I allegiant to the flag? Oh, let's draw a conclusion. The flag must mean our country. But you have to draw your own conclusion.
Right.
So I pledge allegiance to a flag. Well, really, it's not telling me to do anything, right? It's just a flag. I don't have a big vested interest in it. Okay. And to the republic for which it stands. I think that's the second bit, right? You tell me, Frankie, are we living in a republic?
No.
Okay, so I pledge allegiance to a republic that doesn't exist.
Which does not exist.
Okay, great. So no. First one, no, I'm not pledging to a flag. Or to the republic, right, for which it stands. Because we were initially a republic and we've changed into a federalist state with, George Washington. I have issues with that. I like a republic. That's a neat idea. Of the United States of America, I believe is the third one.
No, it's the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which.
You know what's funny is I see people standing up right now and putting their hands over their heart because we're reciting these words.
I know. Well, see, that's the indoctrination. We all know these things, and we're so used to it because every morning, ding goes the bell, right?
Everybody stand
up.
Okay, that's good. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Right, and you almost do a military type of movement because you have to quarter turn to wherever the flag is in the room, and then you salute because this is a salute. Putting your hand on your chest and going, that movement is a salute.
Right.
It's just like the whole.
There are definitely mind control techniques, and anybody can do research on the Pledge of Allegiance and why it was actually produced.
See, I've heard many theories about it. One of them is it was written by socialists to get us indoctrinated to the idea of nationality, nationalism, socialism. And then I've heard the other theory that, the reason why the Pledge of Allegiance was created was to convince Southerners to accept the Union. And it was after the Civil War, so to make them, their youth, be indoctrinated into the idea of the Union, because that's when I think what the fourth line is, one nation indivisible, But if you read our Constitution, we all have the right as a country or as a state to go, hey, no, I don't want to be a part of the union anymore. You guys are smoking way too much crack.
Right.
I want to do my own thing.
But then that all fell apart, right?
Right.
Because, that trouble between the North and the South, and one people would like to tell you it's all about the slaves and freeing the slaves, but there was a monetary problem in there as well. And slavery was on its way out at the time.
Right.
And it would have actually gone away on its own instead of, stirring the points of, contention by telling somebody they can't do anything. Slavery really started to make no monetary sense, back in those days. It was to the point where they found an economic model that forced us to rent their properties and sit there and buy all sorts of stuff. Man, you don't want to sit there and have to, feed and house your slaves? No. Check it out. You take your slaves and you give them freedom. And you say, I'll rent you a house. That's cool.
But I need a job to pay for this.
You can work for me.
You can still work for me,
totally,
and I'll pay you, and then I'll just take the rent out of your week's earnings and stuff like that.
Right. And then we have a store you can buy from our store, right?
We call it income tax nowadays.
And early on, that's what they did, right? You just defleece them. It was the train cities or railroad cities. They'd sit there and give you a job and take all your money back by the end of the week. You still get out with nothing. Now somebody else takes your money. How are you liking the studio setup?
I like it, and I'm hoping that we're going to see how the first full recording of everything goes, and I hope it comes out great. And it's always a work in progress, and I love the fact that we have such people that sit and listen to us, though. And they're getting to watch us grow, because like I've said a few times, as we as a community grow, I grow, Steve grows,
right.
FBGlive grows. We all grow together, and so that's what we should all strive for, to grow, because that's something, and it goes back to my whole allegiance to the advancement of mankind.
Mm-hmm.
It's together, it's the only way to solve these problems. Because, I don't believe in the whole theory like a lot of people, like your Tea Partiers and a lot of people think of, well, I'll petition the government to stop being the government, and that should be cool. And I'll replace it with new leaders and new slave masters, because, these slave masters are bothering me. But I know that the next set is going to do the exact same things, because that's what I see politicians do. They tell you everything you want to hear on a campaign trail, but then once you're in office, it's all,
hey,
Coca-Cola gave me $1 million. I got to do what they do.
I've got to stand up for every elected official out there. They tried. Just want to tell you, they tried. But it was those darn XYZs. That's one time thing. I only get 2 XYZs per show.
But now you use them both.
Oh, shoot. Now I'm doomed. Guess I'll have to find another, parable.
I guess, yeah. I guess you can go from XYZs to yada yadas.
ABC?
Oh, yeah.
There's no rules on ABCs.
There is no ABC rule there.
No, not at all.
Okay, so back to homeschooling, remember, because this is the focus. This is
right,
what
okay.
We're trying to do homeschool.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I say it's a personal responsibility, and it's something that you as a parent should plan for, to educate your own offspring. Because, in the words of Malcolm X, and I'm pretty sure this is going to piss off some other people, but only a fool would allow his enemy to educate his children. In the words of Malcolm X. And I see the federal government and the socialists, all forms of government, as my enemy, because all forms of government, whether it be a republic, a democracy, a dictatorship, socialism, communism, whatever, they seek to do one thing, and that's tell me how to live my life, because they believe they know what is best for me and what is best for they use the term a lot, greater good. I personally don't believe that. I don't believe I can tell anyone else how to live their life better than they can tell themselves how to live their life. You know what I mean? I can advise and be like, hey man, the reason why you might be broke is because you spend your money on, you spend $300 a week on beer. You should cut down on beer a little bit. So it's little things like that, and you just advise, and together, education through educating, we spread the idea. So, but some people do schooling as, well, it should be done fair and balanced and kind of would it be mono? Would it be mono because it's a singular thing? It's just one voice that's just coming out. It does not encourage free thought and creative thinking. So it'd be mono. And some people think, and some people view public schools as actually the break that they get because, I hear it a lot. Well, you don't understand, Frankie. Being a mom or being a dad is very hard. Kids are very physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausting. I can understand that. I understand those emotions. I know what it is. I understand those emotions. But you also made the conscious decision to do the act that creates life, and so you should have been ready for the consequences or repercussions. Because if you add this to this, it causes a boom. It's simple physics, science.
I totally agree with you, but that's a slippery slope when you're telling people you got to deal with your choices and your decisions because they think, and I totally agree. We're all about personal responsibility. So.
Right.
But the interesting point is I see people protesting, right? Like one of the first things that came in my head was kind of like the protest of saying, but I have to work so hard, right? The schools are going to educate. I'm not that smart, so I'm going to have somebody else teach my kids. I work and my wife works. If that were the case, it's not the case. We work with one of those old-fashioned systems where we work and take care of the kids, separately, and we work together as a team in our household. But we each have our jobs. A lot of people will sit there and work 2 jobs. And then they have school and babysitters afterwards. And when we start talking about homeschooling for them, I'd ask you, well, how does that work?
Well, how would we provide, or how could homeschooling be provided for someone in that a way for that someone in that kind of situation to have? Well, this is what happens is I'm pretty sure the way the model works is let's take an apartment complex, right? Mom in 1A has the 2 jobs. Dad in 2B does the same thing. He works 2 jobs. He really can't balance out, right? Mm-hmm. Single parents. But mom in 3A is a stay-at-home mom. Her husband works, and she homeschools her own kid. Well, the idea is if you're interested in homeschooling, you should take, again, personal responsibility and go down to the lady, let's call her Trisha, in 3A. Go down to Trisha and say, hey, Trish, I already pay a babysitter, $15-20 an hour or whatever, whatever the going rate for babysitters are. I always hear that it's extremely expensive, right? Would you mind, schooling my child or unschooling my child? And then the kid still gets that idea of at home,
But still, that's kind of tricky, right? Because we're also assuming that Trisha shares your values and all this other stuff.
She's a trusted friend, or I've heard of a lot of people, family members, homeschooling, like their nieces or nephews or grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So
it comes down to coursework, right? And having curriculum and understanding what curriculum is. And I haven't a clue. The more I look at it, the more I don't know about it. Because, I was reading something the other day and it was talking about how kindergarten and first grade, we teach kids stuff that they're going to already learn just by being alive. And then the author says, what does he say? Oh, so in kindergarten, we teach them the color blue. Okay. Do you think somebody's going to go through life and not learn what the color blue is? Did we really need to put you in school
for that? No. Right, yeah.
Right, okay. You're going to learn your colors, right? What's red?
And your shapes.
That's red. That's a square. That's brown. It's like, okay, so why are we teaching this? No, it's kindergarten, right? It's to teach. This is nap time. This is a teacher. You arrive at this facility. Come in, sit down.
It's an indoctrination of this is the routine. Because if you think about it, the only thing when you go through public school, the only thing that ever gets taken away from you is your nap time. Once you leave kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all that stuff, you take away nap time.
Yeah, I hear you.
I love taking a nap.
Well, yeah, that was pretty cool. We had these little rugs, and we'd pull out the rugs, and then we'd get to choose between milk and chocolate milk.
Yeah, I remember
Now, I
that.
like
Get a story.
chocolate milk. Right, and there was a story, and you went, the little bunny rabbit jumped across the forest and got shot. Right? You know.
What's Golden Steve go to?
No, we were
Wait,
doing
that's a
little.
Disney movie.
Right,
Right, that is true.
right. Disney, everything dies. You know,
It's part of life.
but it is a part of life, and school systems. One of my biggest phobias was given to me in kindergarten, and that was the fear of death. I came online in the middle of the whole Cold War thing, and so my school was still teaching duck and cover.
Oh, yeah?
And so I come online, and I get to kindergarten and first grade, and they're sitting there going, beep, beep, beep. Sirens are going off, and what are we supposed to do? We duck underneath our desk. Well, the next year, what did they do? Said, oh, we're not doing that anymore because you're going to be dead. I'm like, wow, that's a great thing for me to carry. Thanks for imparting that. Right? So as I'm growing up, I'm just a kid, right? I'm not even 10, right? I'm going through school. All I know is, hey, there's this thing, it's called a nuclear weapon. It could drop. We used to be able to protect from it by diving under a desk. Now we're just going to die, okay? So what does that give you to come from the future? So yeah, the public schools gave me that wonderful thought.
That
so
fear, yeah.
at the end of the Cold War, my God, the way my body felt, it was like all of a sudden you took that away, and I said, I might just live. So this thought form that was imparted to me disappeared at the end of Russia, right? But now we have a lot of other doom, right?
Right, there's always some doom.
Right.
There's always FEMA's coming to round you up, or as the Tea Party loves to say, here comes those Islam, here comes those radical Muslims coming
Right.
after us. There's always some boogeyman somewhere.
Al Gore did that one, and that almost did it for me with the whole Cold
Climate.
War. Yeah, when he came out with the inconvenient truth, I sat there and I watched that, and I go, uh-oh, we're all gonna die! Ah! And then I went home and I said, look, Steve, you're an adult. Let's see if there's any kind of truth to this. Well, you just get on the interweb, right? And especially when that was new, you could go out there and find out all these people that he quoted are suing him, protesting that he's either in the movie, saying, you're out of context. You've misdone everything. You're not representing this correct. And then I go, wow, the vice president is misrepresenting a case and taking people's words out of context and just skewing the whole thing, making crazy hypotheses. And again, it's fear-mongering, and they teach that in the schools now. They teach this thing called global warming, and they've changed its name. I know, it's global climate change, right? And that because it's warming, it's going to get colder. Now, that's fucking stupid, right? You know, the ice caps are, and I didn't apologize for saying Fred, but the ice caps, they're actually growing. You can see the ice growing up there. But you know what they've said now? I saw that last week. It says, the ice is melting at the bottom up.
What?
Right, so it's
it's
not melting from the
underneath
top.
the water.
Right, it is going away, right? So
Wow.
we can see the ice on the top. But global warming change is actually making the ice melt from the bottom up. Isn't that great?
That's almost as believable as 2 planes took down 2 steel buildings.
There's a lot of weird stories in our world, for
Or
sure.
or the fact that, well, of course the NSA has to listen to your phone calls because you might be talking to a terrorist. Of course.
Man, those kind of thoughts just give me a headache, especially when you're dealing with them. You know what I'd like to talk about a little bit?
You want to?
Yeah, actually, what I'd like to talk about would be, how did your vacation go last week? How did that turn out? Because I know I heard a couple of those stories, and I just want to dive into that. So you took a little trip to Austin, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and you just chilled with a bunch of people. And
Well, actually, only 2 people.
only 2 people?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
So check this out. So I get a text message, and I send one out going, "Hey, what are you doing?" And her response is, "Oh, sitting poolside, drinking margaritas." So it's like, "What? I want a margarita." So the conversation ensues. I end up after, what was it, like an hour and a half debating whether or not I should go. End up going. Right. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm gonna get a little break from having to talk ideology, politics, religion, all this stuff. So
relaxing time.
I get to just slam back some margaritas, to hang out with two hot girls by a pool. Access to a hot tub.
Oh yeah, that's the recipe, right?
American dream right there. Tell you what. So, of course,
go ATM.
So, but I get there, and all of a sudden, it becomes a conversation of. So, Frankie, I've been sitting here explaining to Miranda your philosophy on voluntarism and anarchy, and how that liberty is the summation of anarchy.
Okay, hold on. Repeat that. You're over at a hot tub with two hot chicks, and you're talking about what? Volunteerism, anarchy, and international politics?
Well,
what are you doing, man?
See, this is what happens, though. It's like, I came into the situation, like I said, I was going with the mindset of, I get a break from this stuff. I for once, don't have to be the vocal point. I can just talk about, I can talk about shoes and clothes and, things in that sheep, right?
We can talk about sheep.
And we're going to talk about sheep. Don't forget about that. We will always talk about sheep at FBGlive. And, so anyways, that's where, and then so the mood is going great. There's this passionate conversation happening back and forth about how, at some point I go, we are committing as much audacity and tragedy or horrendous acts as the Holocaust. And it's, how can you compare that? And I was like, do you not see what we're doing to the Middle East? We are eradicating and committing genocide. How about the fact that Israel is allowed to murder the Palestinian people, and it's cool because God said, you must support Israel. Zikhi. And,
well, it seems people get really heated when you talk about Israel or the Jews or something like that. But they won't go, well, I don't know what that is. And, I have close relatives that are, Jewish for what that means. But the question is, can you take an objective look on that? We could go into a program that goes pretty, crazy.
Why?
I don't know.
But back to the vacation.
Come back to the vacation.
Right.
So you're in a hot tub talking about international politics.
Right. And I just compared what we're doing in the Middle East to the Holocaust. Well, Miranda, which is one of the ladies that were there, takes offense to that. She goes, well, as a person who has family that went through that, and da-da-da. And I'm not, I take, it's a very touchy subject, and I go, I understand this, I get it. I'm not saying it did not happen. I just don't believe it's as big as number as they claim. Because remember, a number invokes different kinds of reaction. If I told you I killed one person, you're just kind of like, huh. If I told you I killed 246 different people, you would kind of react a little bit differently. So...
Yeah, the numbers are all lies throughout history, and I don't know that was the case for that, because, I don't know any numbers are correct. Right. I know there's a spin everywhere, and, well, you could try to argue that those were the days where reporters were reporters, and they checked the numbers, and the facts were facts, and history was true.
Right, when you had the sluice.
But man, that was big propaganda time. And there's a lot of people here in Fredericksburg. We have the War Museum, right? And people come to celebrate their participation or their love of war, right? I was in World War II. I was a gunner, and then they wear around their little hat from the SS Minnow. So they'll come over here and talk about the Great War because that's when they pulled together and they got something done. But they were propagandized the entire time. Yes, we can. A picture of some chick with
her
bust arm.
And she got a bandana on because women had to go to work.
I want you. The little tiny,
the Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam pointing. they were pounded all this propaganda, and they grew up, and their entire lives were about, and are about, because with that little SS Minnow hat on, they're sitting there locking into an identity that they were thrown into. They were thrown into World War II. They were thrown into volunteering. They're they're definitely, I don't know. It just gets me confused sometimes.
Well, war is a very confusing and harsh thing now. You know what I mean?
So you had a good vacation, though.
I guess so, because, so I guess, for y'all that don't know, I'm 28 years old, right? So I should be, full of testosterone and, just thinking too hot chicks, alcohol, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, type of thing, right? But no, I get into this conversation, and I find it far more stimulating and electrifying, the fact that I can sit here and already, before I even arrived in an area, my ideals and principles, I guess, or
Had already been
they had already been talked about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my own ego, that says, wow, before I enter a room, people are already talking about me.
Sure, you can call it your ego if you want, but the fact is that they were interested in actually talking about that. It's straightforward that they had an interest in that subject line.
Right.
You may have been, the
catalyst.
focus point, but if it wasn't you, maybe it was somebody else or something else. Who knows? I like the fact that those two people exist. That they're actually willing to have a deep conversation in a hot tub. It's like, but man, a hot tub with two chicks.
Well, we never make it to the hot
You
tub.
just talk. Oh,
We never make it into the hot tub, and I think it was just because of the progression of the conversation. But
man. Okay.
So I kind of I might have
You
rooster
talked
blocked.
your way out of the
Right,
hot tub.
I might have rooster blocked myself. I might have totally rooster blocked myself on that one. But it is what it is.
Well, it was fun.
Oh yeah,
It was
definitely.
definitely fun.
There's always something good about it. It's always fun to spread anarchy in the idea, anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know about that term anarchy. I think that that term is screwed up, kind of like homeschooling. I like the term natural law when applied. It's kind of like there's cause and effect for everything.
Right.
Anarchy just means that you don't put a top-down structure or organization and you let things occur naturally. You rip me off, and I'm going to take action. I'm not sure what action that is.
Right.
Right? It might be nothing, but it might be something. Right? It all depends on how I feel.
Exactly.
Right? What do I want to do?
See, that's why.
What
we
am I
have
capable
police.
of doing? So, the current control system is all tops down. Even a republic is that kind of a model, where we have, in a traditional republic, you'll have a county or a city will create laws for themselves. They would have a state government, as it were in the United States Republic, and then you'd have the federal government, and the control came from the smallest group and went upward. Nowadays, you don't got that, but even that's just a little too much, because all of a sudden okay, here in Fredericksburg, they like to pass stupid laws.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's a lot like every other place. So they're sitting there telling you have to cut your lawn.
And it has to be
Right.
this high.
So we have all these trucks that are driving around the neighborhood looking for you, the fact that you didn't cut your lawn. But they also tell you in the little newsletter that they mail to you get in with your bill, that says, if you see somebody that's not in compliance, please call this thing. Right? So they're tattling on you or doing whatever. I mean, if you go around Fredericksburg, you'll see so many of these city vehicles. The other day I saw one of the city vehicles with the code inspector, right? And the inspector dude, he had inspector dude on his truck, right? And I'm working in this neighborhood, and what does he do? Check this out.
What is
He
expecting?
pulls down this, and he drives his truck, click. Forward again, click. Forward again, click. I'm watching this inspector dude. We might as well just call him the tax man.
Okay.
Because the tax man sits there and goes, I'm taking a picture of your property and I'm going back to the office. I'll print them out. I'll put them in your file. Maybe I'll compare them. And I think I'm going to raise your taxes. Why? Well, everybody's kept home values up.
y'all got purty lawns, right? You know, that's good for 10 grand for the city. Oh God, so you complain. 10 grand? That's too much. You go down there and he takes you to the basement and, you know, drags you in and then he goes, well, let me show you this pretty picture. Let me give you my reasons, right? You're up 10 grand because you got a beautiful neighborhood and everybody takes care of stuff. And you go, I object. And he goes, well, I'm a nice guy. I'll drop it to 5 grand. You're all, what? Serious? You're going to drop $5,000 off it just because I came down here? So are you overcharging all my neighbors 10 grand each too? Maybe they should come down here and say, hey, where's my 5 grand, dude? Right? Why is he raising the prices so much? Fredericksburg, it's very easy to understand that. We have a fleet of cars. You know, we have so much infrastructure.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. You know, when the chief of police died, Chief A. Strike, rest in peace, man. When he died, cop cars lined the entire Llano, right, flashing, and I could see them. It was just like, looked like a mile. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So many cops, so many lights. Why do we have that many cars? Why can we fill a street with cop cars with flashing lights? There's a lot of crime in Fredericksburg, is that correct? No.
Well, I guess, I don't know. What do you
Define
define
that.
as crime?
Yeah.
Because in Fredericksburg, your grass being too long is a crime. If it's something
Your
can
what?
your grass being too long. If it's over so many inches, it is a crime.
Oh, yeah.
You know, or you're in a historical society and you don't, and you decide to go ahead and build a little hot tub or something in the back room, back, and you don't get a permit. That's a crime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are real crimes that happen in Fredericksburg. And there's that little petty shit of where kids, you know, do things, you know, out of boredom and stuff like that, or you know, adults have a couple too many drinks and decide, you know, to walk home or to say something that they should really be allowed to say, and then all of a sudden get beat up by cops and be told, hey, you're resisting arrest.
Right. Well, let me just step in. The cops escalate violence, right?
Plus one.
One step above.
Right, because
Right.
remember, it is all about officer safety.
Officer
And so,
safety.
in order for the
Right.
if that means that the officer must be safe, and it means you have to die, then that's okay, because remember, it's officer safety.
I don't know.
That's not my rules. My rules say
Oh,
there is
that's
no
right.
police. There is no police.
They don't play by your rules.
And you have to talk to your neighbor so that you know your neighbor. And,
Well,
and then-
that might be your rules, but we're not supposed to talk to our neighbors if we have a problem.
Well,
They
the
can
only-
say 911 helps that, right?
well, you talk
You-
about your neighbors.
You talk about your neighbors, and then you get a visit to your neighbors from your representative with a gun, and
Right.
he might tase or shoot your neighbor, right, to help him.
Right.
Right?
All because he was playing his music a little too loud.
Yeah, ain't that cute?
I just wanted him to turn down the stereo. You didn't have to tase him.
Yeah. Well, the guy said no, so we escalated plus one.
Plus one.
Yeah, plus
He
one was
wouldn't
my
open the door.
shotgun. Oh, yeah, it can get really, really screwed up. Yeah, I think we're coming up to the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
are.
we're actually in the top half of the hour, I guess. It's now 10, it's approaching 10:30,
That's crazy.
and we've been running around. Let's try one of our,
Let's take a quick break. Dun, 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 dun,
Enough fun and games. FBG Live.
I've heard whispers about the financial support your government receives from the drug industry.
Well, the irony of this, of course, is that this money, which is in the billions, is coming from your country. You see, you are the major purchaser of our national product, which is, of course, cocaine.
On one hand, you're saying the United States government is spending millions of dollars to eliminate the flow of drugs onto our streets. At the same time, we are doing business with the very same government that is flooding our streets with cocaine.
See. Let me show you a few of the other characters that are involved in this tragic comedy.
So, did you enjoy that? We did.
We loved it.
We're gonna have to work on that a little bit. Maybe next week we'll have
Remember,
some more.
this is a growing process, and we're going on this. And so, man, we definitely need to work on the cooling process in the studio too, because I am sweating like a sheep's butt.
Okay, sheep's ass. I mean, butt. That's terrible.
Okay, Steve, since you kind of touched on it a little bit, remember, we're talking about homeschooling, we're gearing in homeschools, right? We're talking about homeschooling. And you kind of threw in the fact that, you are a parent, and that you're going into this whole new phase, new journey of being a parent.
That's correct.
Okay, now, something, like I said, we all know the mythos and the arguments about, well, how is a kid going to socialize? How is it going to work with one parent having to work and one being at home? Where's the balance? Where's the trade-off? Have you and your partner, which she'll be joining us here at some point soon, do y'all face those struggles? Have y'all already talked about what is it going to do? How you're going to balance this out? Because you got two little ones. But one, he's at the age where he's learning things by
Automatically.
life. Right, yeah.
Right.
Which was like how we talked about earlier.
Well, I'd probably argue the fact that, the oldest one, right, he's able to learn stuff automatically as well. We're just, we have been, up until this point, allowing the schools to tell them about, which color red is and what color blue is, and how to do crayons. They're actually doing a heck of a lot of field trips, right, with these kids lately. But I guess how this is going to work for us. Now, I'm always teaching. I'm always talking about stuff. And so I always drag a kid or somebody or even myself, along when I do my crazy stuff. Like I'll start doing the FBGlive recording stuff. And, you have to plug this into this and this and this. And I get way overcomplicated. But as they come along, they understand some of these pieces and they get focus and time with those. Now there's a set curriculum that would be beneficial for a kid to ingest when they're young. Some things like reading and writing and languages are very important. And geography. Hey, we still got to talk about Iceland here because we've been having an interesting conversation, but we won't segue at this point. But there's that basic core work that we want to teach them and what we know about the world. And Jen's going to be working on that. And I'm not sure. Maybe it's a good time to bring Jen on and see what her thoughts about this whole homeschooling thing have been so far. What do you think, babe? Want to talk about homeschooling?
Sure.
Okay.
Don't sound so enthusiastic about it.
Well, just where to start.
Okay, here, I'll give you a platform to start
Okay.
off. This is obviously a new venture for you, right? And you're not a first-time mom, but you're about to have a big helping because you got a little one, and a baby. Right?
Yeah.
I guess what still qualifies as a baby.
Baby and a 5-year-old.
So I guess what already in the beginning processes have you found to be things that you're like, well, okay, I have to plan and organize for this type of things, or what are the things and what? Okay, you know what? Start over. What ultimately gave you this decision that said, okay, hey, no, I want to try this. I want to do this.
Well, first off, I am a stay-at-home mom, and Steve's the one going to work, and so I have free time. I have the luxury to be able to start homeschooling, and I want to because I was thinking back when I was in school, I had some problems with it, and there's some things I disagreed on, and seeing my son go through kindergarten, it was kind of like it brought back memories of myself being in school, and it's like, oh, I didn't like that, and I would want to change that, and I don't want my son to learn about certain things a certain way, and I don't want to say I want to control him, but I want to give him different resources, and I want him to have different experiences and influences other than just being within the walls of a school with other kids only his age, and being around teachers and principals and like campus police that are looked upon as feared authoritative figures. I don't like the whole standardized testing. I'm a terrible test taker. I think I'm a smart person, but I'm just terrible at tests. And I don't think that it should be allowed that, the school's basically telling you how smart or dumb your kid is through some little test they took. And I didn't want that for my son. And I went online and looked up what do I need to do. Basically, in the state of Texas, you don't need any kind of license to start homeschooling. And he only needs to learn reading, writing, math. Basics, yeah. And, the main question I get right now is what about socialization? And people that are uneducated on homeschooling and, I guess, closed-minded people that just automatically say, oh, that's just terrible. Why are you doing that to your kid? You're homeschooling your kid. It's like, go out and educate yourself. And he doesn't have to be unsocialized. There's extracurricular activities that are available in Fredericksburg, like the Boys and Girls Club, and there's classes, like he wants to take karate classes, and if he wants to go to church, he can go to a little youth group thing, and of course, I've got other mom friends that I can go take my son to and hang out, and I don't know why so many people, like, I'm lacking support right now, and I'm really wanting more support on, this is the decision I made, I'm headstrong about it, I have my beliefs about it, and, I don't know, I'm just ranting.
So, but, okay, you say you don't have the support. Now, obviously that's not coming from your spouse, it's not coming from Steve, because Steve is pretty adamant in it, and we, as friends, we've been supportive and telling me how good it is. And I've seen your Facebook posts, and there seems to be a lot more support than you realize there is.
Well, I say that because of my immediate family. I think are being a little close-minded about it, and they think they know what I need and what my son needs. But really, they, I understand they're my family and they care and they're voicing their opinion, but in reality, they have not educated themselves about homeschooling, and they just need to let me do what I want to do with my child, and that's my right.
Right. So, okay. So are you, like I touched on a little bit, and I said it a little bit earlier, one of the excuses that a lot of people make, besides the whole socialization and all that other stuff, is, well, how are you to get a break? Because remember, kids are physically, emotionally, and spiritually exhausting. How are you ever going to be a break? If you gotta be mom, nurse, principal, teacher, police, campus PD, you have to be all these things. When is Jen going to be able to be all?
This works out for me because I'm Cosmo's mom, and Cosmo's dad, he has a work schedule that we go back and forth and we share custody, and I'm not his only teacher. His dad is also his teacher. Stephen is also his teacher. Whoever is around, one of my best friends that has kids, she watches him every now and then. She's going to be his teacher. And it's like a kid, we're being raised by a village, and I have that luxury. And there's your answer.
There's my answer, huh? So, okay.
Oh, also, in Texas, you don't have to have you don't have to write down what hours a day that you're teaching your child. You don't have to sit your child down in the room and say, this is what we're going to do for 4 hours. This is the schedule.
Right.
See, a homeschooled child doesn't just learn confined in their home, sitting down at a desk or on the couch or whatever. You can teach your child outside the home, like when you're in the car. You're talking about, like we're talking about clocks. He's learning how to tell time, and he's counting by twos, counting by fives, counting by tens, and he'll just count to 100 just for the heck of it because he likes to. And when we're at the grocery store, we talk about, well, how many ounces are in a pound, and how much per pound are we buying, this and that, and you add up in your head what you're buying, and so whenever you get up to the cash register, you know how much money you're going to have to give her, right? Just things like that. You're not just confined in the home. You're learning everywhere.
Right. So the whole world is a teaching environment.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as, we can only learn inside of this box.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like, I want to take him to museums and to, our little field trips. I want to take him, to have different learning experiences and use different resources for that.
And now have you put in, because he just finished, what was it, kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
He just graduated.
he just
Kindergarten.
graduated, so that means he can tell you what colors and shapes things
yeah.
are. And like you said, count to 100, but who knows how much of an influence that was from the state or from you and Steve and everybody else he interacts with life. But have you already started thinking about what his first grade format is going to be?
Oh yeah, I've looked at different things, different resources online. What kind of curriculum would a first grader need? But I was thinking though, first I want to see what he already knows, because the other thing about not homeschooling your child, they're in public school, is that you don't know exactly what they're being taught every day. I am unsure of exactly what all he has learned in kindergarten.
Right.
So I want to know what he already knows and where we need to go from there. So I'm kind of, right now, I'm making my own curriculum based upon that.
Okay. And then, it might be that surprising, but every year when you start a new year at school, that's the first thing they do anyway. Like, even in the public school system, that's the first thing they do. They spend the first, month maybe revisiting to see where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they decide whether you're a special needs kid or you're an advanced learner or if you're just run of the mill. Besides the style or information that's been given, that's the public school information gives it and being a reason to leave it. Is there any other reasons why you're choosing the homeschooling route? Like, does it have anything to do with the social issues or the vaccination rules, things like that? These things play factors in y'all's decision.
I really would like to just spend more time with him.
Yeah?
That's the deal.
That's good. You bring up the vaccine thing, and, I don't want to do a show on vaccines right now, but I would like to talk about vaccines at some point. But when you do put a bunch of kids in a room like a school, it's a breeding ground for, diseases and stuff like that, and germs. They call them germs, right? But how many times do we amplify that? What is a school? Does that occur in nature at all? I don't know any animal.
What's the difference between germs in a public school versus you're out in public in the grocery store or in a
Well, I think it would be density, right? You lock people in
because
a
you
room.
go from a petri dish, that's like a quarter inch, to a petri dish that's 2 miles in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
So the likelihood of the bacteria in the small petri dish has the ability to grow and fester and build power. If it's in this big old petri dish, there's the more likelihood that it will die out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it has to jump to something else. So yeah, in Walmart, there's the density of people and your exposure to them and their coughing and their touch. In schools, they go.
How often is Walmart sanitized?
How often are the schools sanitized?
Right? That's my
All day
point.
long. Do they sterilize each one of the
like a doctor's office
seats?
No.
They do all that? No. Right? They say, well, it's not that important. We'll give them shots.
Yep.
And they get all their shots because they're going to be exposed to stuff. That's
Right.
just.
Well, it's just funny too that we're a country that pushes the clicker ticket seatbelt rules. School bus, there's not a damn seatbelt to be found.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that weird? You know why that is? They found that putting
Kids
seatbelts on buses actually produced more problems. Because when you get into a crash with a bus, you kind of fly into the front seat, right? And then you're okay. with the seatbelt, all of a sudden you're doing this headbutt thing, and bam, and then restraints. People don't get hurt on school buses, not as much as in cars, but it is kind of strange, and one would have to look at the whole seatbelt thing.
While we're talking about school buses, I want to let y'all know that
we're getting a school bus.
no, the Fredericksburg Primary School does not have buses that come and take kids and pick up kids.
The primary school?
Yes, because you cannot put car seats in buses.
Right.
And children that age need to have to be in a car
Right.
seat.
Oh.
Well,
And-
legally they have to be in car seats,
Yeah.
right? They have to be in
Yeah.
the back seat.
But they take my kid on a field trip
How
on
they
a
do that?
bus.
What?
On
Right.
a bus.
Well, it's
No
because
seatbelts.
It's okay.
No
State.
safety belts.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
state.
okay.
Right. The
Remember
rules.
that.
I mean, this is the excuse that someone at the school told me. Well, we can't put car seats on the bus.
That's why they don't have one to
we
pick
don't.
it up.
Yeah.
But we're gonna take those same kids that you had to drop off,
Mhm.
and we're gonna put them on a bus and take them to the San Antonio Zoo.
Yeah.
I hope that's cool, right?
Yeah.
Sign this piece of paper that says it's cool.
Yeah.
You can't sue me. Sign that piece of paper. So Steve, Jen was just telling us about how her plans and the excitement that's coming up. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like are you ready to take on kind of a little bit, or are you going to have to take on a little bit more of a teacher role as well?
I'm not too sure exactly. I believe that just living life puts you in the teacher role in the first place. I am excited about it because I know Cosmo's really smart, very bright kid, and I don't really enjoy a lot of the programming that comes from the public schools, and I'd like to see him explore the universe himself and come to his own conclusions. And I believe we do offer that kind of environment, right, where we have our own opinion about things, but we also value other people's opinions and thoughts that are outside the box. We're not going to sit there and
I
say,
want my child to be open-minded.
so it's going to be good because inside the school system, he's chained to their curriculum, which does year 1, year 2, year 3, whatever, all the way up until you get to the major indoctrination center, right? What do they call that? University or college or extended education. Now you can just do it online. No need to go for the social interaction. Actually, it's better to do school online because you won't be exposed to all the nasty bugs and
Right.
stuff.
Oh, but you're not socialized.
But you're
that
not
way.
social.
No.
Oh no! It's not about college. It's about going and doing kickstands.
They so thought about that, right? They put an instant messenger thing in school, right? So if you're doing online, you can be part of the social interaction. You send an LOL
You just gotta
to your
figure out
friend.
how to read tone of voice.
Right, how to communicate that way. But yeah, definitely excited. Nervous, of course. I'm nervous about a lot of things, right? Life's a struggle. You have to sit there and make money, pay bills. Everything has to go in order if you're into personal responsibility. And one of those things is education. And so it's almost like we don't have a choice. We just don't have a choice in the manner of to educate our kids if we believe in personal responsibility. At the current date, anybody that puts their kid in school, the government will blame the parents if the kid misbehaves. In truth, I see it as the schools themselves are posting, not posting, they're giving these people all sorts of thought. These people, little kids, are being given thoughts and programmed how to act at school. They come home, the parents can't counter that programming. Well, who created the child?
Right. Well, yeah, and I want to say, I don't want to misquote MSNBC, but I forget the reporter that brought up the point that we need to shift the idea that the parent is no longer the child is no longer the property of the parent. The child is now the property of the state.
Right.
And it's like, well, hold on, I heard this chant before. I swear I've heard this before.
Right, I believe Stalin did that. So did Hitler, and a lot of despot
And so, I like I said, well, like I haven't said, but I mean, most people probably figured it out. I went through the federal education system. I've been through that whole kinds of the state government and all that good stuff. I hated every moment of it because I was inquisitive. I asked too many questions. I did a whole lot of things. So I was isolated a lot. So I might as well not had any social interaction whatsoever. And so I learned about homeschooling as an adult, and to me, I feel like it's so vital and so important. The fact that you create that core, that nucleus of a family, of a village, of a community by being a part of it. Of course, like a lot of people write off my opinion because of the fact that I don't have kids and I don't do this, so I don't know what it is, blah, blah, blah. And I try to explain to people you don't have to go through something to understand it. If you're able to critically think and process, thought, then you should be able to draw conclusions and, I guess what the word is, empathize. Because sympathy is when you can relate.
You can feel with.
Right, and empathy is when you understand it, I think, or something like that.
I think so. And understand this. My head gets swirling as we do politics speak so often. Wow. Sometimes I just want to do what Ty does. Let's talk about sheep.
Let's take a quick little break. Another one of those little spots that we're doing. We're trying out this week. Let's go into one of those and back with Fredericksburg Tea Party.
FBGlive. Local sheep. Bah.
I love my people, so I talk too much. I care about our baby, so I talk too much.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen.
So I talk
As
too much.
always, I hope you enjoyed the second little blip that we had out there for you.
I really like this segment.
And then, like I said, we're coming back with the Fredericksburg TY, our FBG tie, which, So, hey Ty, like I said, the whole FBGlive crew is in here. Ty's been with us the whole time. Such a quiet dude. It's crazy.
Well, just wait till he talks about sheep.
So Ty, what's going on in the back four, man?
Oh, I got some new sheep this week, and got 15 new sheep, and
What kind of sheep? Still dopers?
torpers.
I'm sorry, dopers.
Yeah, they need to come up with more professional names. It's easily mixed up.
They're very professional a lot, huh?
Yeah.
You also went to that thing. What was it? The Dorpers Association?
Yeah, the Hill Country Dorper Association meeting.
How was that?
That's good. It's in Melbourne, Texas on Thursday. And
What do y'all talk about? What do y'all do there? Is it just a whole lot of networking and
pretty much those people raise full-blood registered Dorpers, and they're talking about to capitalize on like show lambs. They'll bring a premium price. Just talk to your local county extension agent. And for kids for 4-H FFA projects.
What does that mean? Talk to your county agent about what? Hey, I got a sheep, man. I want it to sell for a lot of money. Is that what you're supposed to call and say?
Yeah, if you got quality animals.
But,
and then does he help you put out the word?
Yeah, he talks to
so
that.
He helps you network.
Yeah, he helps you network. Like if you got quality animals, he'll look at them and probably talk to like the ag teacher at say Fredericksburg High School or Stonewall, and get the word out there that you got these animals.
First, you have to understand what a quality animal is.
Right.
What does that mean? I mean, it's a neat shade of black.
Yeah.
I like
Well, the Dorpers just came out for showing and for like school projects, and I've just got sheep, but for good people that raise them, people that got a little bunch of full blood animals, it's it's outside the box.
Okay, so the Dorper meeting, they kind of get together, and this is a big Dorper meeting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. People came from 6 hours all over state Texas.
Wow.
And it's the best association in the whole USA for the Dorpers. It's the biggest. The biggest right here in Hill Country.
Of course, it's from Texas too. On top of it,
Right.
gotta have Texas, which I didn't too. We're talking about size.
Right.
So
Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the sheep that you got as well, since I do see that you've had a real busy week. Last time when we were talking to you, you were doing some fencing. You you just tore down your fence and because it killed a
Yeah.
lamb, and you had a horn issue, but now you have new fence, and you had 25 sheep before, and you upped your kitty a bunch.
Yeah.
Right. So you bought a bunch, and your land is kind of full. How many sheep are you running today?
39 and
You
one
have
cow.
39. What was last week? 25.
Yeah, 25, and it was 24 after the fence incident.
Mm-hmm. So you went over to the auction yard on Wednesday. Is that correct?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Sat there and bought a bunch and got some good deals.
Yeah.
What kind of prices? Let's talk prices, because that's one thing that you keep telling me about. In that community, they don't like to talk finances and numbers. Is that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, most people don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
The people are serious about it.
If I were to buy a sheep from the auction, how much should I pay for what?
It depends on the market report, and that's available to the public. The market report.
Where would I find that?
Publications, Livestock Weekly. They cover Fredericksburg, San Angelo, all the big sales. Every sale in the country is in there.
Okay.
It's the public can look at it if people are interested, but the general public, they don't really think about it.
Unless you have
Yeah.
invested interest in it, you really don't pay attention
Yeah.
to that.
Right, so if I was a rancher and I wanted some sheep, or if I, actually it wouldn't be a rancher, if I were new to this thing, like there are so many people that are buying property and building their little, whatever, dream houses, and then they want to get ag exempt,
Yeah.
and they want some kind of a tax break, so they're told to run animals. So they don't normally go to the auction to buy their animals. At least that's what I'm finding.
Yeah, they'll go through an individual private treaty, just word of mouth, or
Mhm.
however that ranch is
Internet,
advertised.
maybe.
Yeah, internet a lot, because say if somebody comes to this part of the country, they don't know somebody with sheep.
But the other option is to actually go to the auction itself
Mm-hmm.
and sit there. And from what we learned last week, when people start bringing them in on Monday night, they will be sold in that order. So, one person could just sit there on the catwalk as
Yeah.
they come in and know what time, they go to buy their particular sheep. And I can't wait to actually see this auction. That's going to be fascinating once we get you to totally, thoroughly describe it, see if it actually flushes out.
Yeah.
But, so there's a guy that sits up there and goes, we got these four sheep,
Yeah.
right? $1 pound, $2 for tithes.
Yeah.
And then everybody stares and looks at this young kid because they're, you're kind of out of your
Age group, right?
Oh
age
yeah.
group.
There's one other guy about my age. He's the ring man. He buys a few, and other than that, yeah, I'm youngster in there.
Right, and they can't quite place you. You
No.
keep coming back and you keep buying sheep. They call you somebody might want to call you a dealer,
Yeah.
which is a nasty sheep term for somebody that just buys and sells sheep,
Right.
which is not your case. And you may buy and sell sheep,
Yeah.
but you're a little bit more complex on that. You raise the sheep for a particular amount of time. Some of them, like yesterday, you were talking about the lamb that you want to keep and you want to breed her to produce new ones. So you're a little bit more complicated than a dealer. But the whole stigma of dealers and breeders and this and that, the Dorpers Association was a bunch of breeders, right?
Correct.
Were there any dealers there?
There's one.
Would they take exception to being called the name dealer?
It probably wouldn't be a popular term around there. Those people don't like to talk about the people that make money, like people that deal sheep, that buy and sell them. That's who's making money consistently.
Well, there is that kind of stigma. I've kind of noticed that. Well, here as a native of Fredericksburg, I kind of noticed that it's not gentlemanly to talk about your money and how
Yeah.
much money you make in a public forum.
Yeah.
It's just not gentle.
Yeah.
If you're successful, it'll show outwardly by like the truck you drive or your house or how gussied up your wife looks.
Okay. I got 59 pairs of boots. Some have points. Some, no, just kidding. I don't have any boots.
So you're making some money being dressed me up.
Yes, babe, for sure. I'll get you a ponytail.
Oh no.
And maybe a hat with ears. Long ears thing. Be really nice. Nice hat.
So Todd, we're talking homeschooling a little bit. You know, like I said, you've been here for a minute listening to us. What has been your experience with schools? Period. You know, because I imagine you went through the state school.
Yeah, I went through public schools.
And so, how was your experience and everything like that?
I guess I got through it.
Yeah.
I guess. I think the taxpayers pay for those schools,
Right.
so they don't have to pay. And like say you go to college, that's a business. People pay to go there. Everybody thinks they gotta go to college. It's a business. I got student loans for like $50,000 for the school I went to. Yeah, I still got them. My credit is shot for that reason because I didn't pay them. I didn't pay old Sally,
Yeah.
but I pay for it now. And there's a deal Obama came out with for the loan program, student loan program.
Right.
I forget the exact terminology, but I'm in that program right now where it'll fix my credit within a year. But it's a business in public schools paid by taxes.
Right. And I hate that part of education where you get out of school and you have debt first thing.
Right.
You need a job and you owe $50,000, $20,000,
Get out
whatever.
making $10 an hour.
And then you have to pay it back to the government. You know, man, there's so many bills nowadays.
Unless your daddy's rich. He puts you through college.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or you could just
You
buy the
deserve
books
the education
and
if you're rich.
download the information and all the books. And
In homeschool, where would the funding for that come from the parents?
Well, yeah, it comes from your own pocket.
Yeah.
Do I
It's
get a
however much
break
you
on
want
my
to do.
taxes if I homeschool?
No. Because remember, like Kai said, it is a business. Because we didn't really touch on it, but homeschooling or public school system, every one of those children are looked as a stock
Asset?
or an asset,
Right.
And so this is now a class B or class C misdemeanor if your child misses so much school that your child will be put on probation. Filed charges against them will be filed as truant, and they'll be put on probation, and because the state lost X amount of dollars because the child didn't go to school for 3 months or whatever. And so, yeah, I don't think you're gonna get a tax break for homeschooling. I think you might actually get penalized. That's just I don't know for sure, so don't go all crazy on me, ladies and gentlemen, talking about how I just think that the government's stealing from you. Oh wait, no, that is what I think they're doing from you.
You're just saying, like, say if it was an apartment complex and you had apartment A1, B1, and C1, for example, and they all went to C1, stay-at-home mom,
Right.
and like they paid, would that be like a business? You know, instead of daycare, it'd be cheaper than daycare for the kids.
Well, it would be a definite. I don't know if you
Or
could
if somebody went
classify it
into
as a
business,
business. It would be more. It would have a business model for sure because then it would because you have as apartment C you would have investors because these people are supplying you a student or a child and they're paying you to practice XYZ service. I can say XYZ as much as I want, ladies and gentlemen. Steve's the only one on our limit. And so, but yeah, so it would be a business because I don't know. It kind of would fall to me. Kind of falls in the same category as you. I mean, would you consider what you do with the sheep a business, or it just has a business model? You know, where because I mean, you can't. I mean, you're not a business. I guess by common definition is what you got. Merchandise. You have investors. You have boards. You have what is it? What else am I looking for?
I think it's just buy and sell things.
Is that all it
You're-
is?
Well,
Buy and
yeah.
sell?
I reckon it'd be
You
a
do stuff
business.
for, Federal Reserve notes or whatever, because you could do a barter business. You have a product and you want to sell it, or you want to buy products and resell them. You definitely have a business,
Yeah.
right? And yours is a little bit different than like the Dorpers Association, which seems to be a bunch of ranchers or different people that have sheep fancies.
Yeah.
And they go there and they want to produce. We were talking about that yesterday, going there and they're all shooting for the biggest, most cutesy sheep, right?
Yeah.
That makes $400.
Yeah.
And
as far as a business model goes, that's not a very good business model. I mean, I guess you could scale it, like, but the business model is spending, let's say, $300 a year on feed, and then pulling out $600,
Right.
you know, for a sale of one lamb. That means you get, wow, you made a whole $300 this year, man. You know, that's crazy. Where your business model, the way that you're running, and we are talking about money, but we're not talking about money in a kind of arrogant way. We're just talking about it in a simplistic way to understand the sheep business, because a lot of people aren't let in on this secret, and the first thing people say is kind of like, well, let me try to figure out how to change the subject real quick. Look at that. All right, well, how much do you pay for your sheep? Well, don't talk about that, right? They won't say that. They'll deviate or misspeak or whatever.
Well, they'll make it a general something like, well, you know, usually it's, you know, $3-4 a pound or something like that. They won't say what they themselves paid for it,
Right.
but they'll give you an idea of what.
So it's obfuscating the answer, right? Confusing the issue. You know, it's not just saying what it is. Well, it's the same thing as I just bought a new car. Well, what did you pay? I got a great deal. It was $16,000. Oh, did you pay cash? No, I financed it. Huh. How much is it going to cost you? Well, actually, when I'm done paying, it's $27,000. Did you get a good deal?
After all.
You know, really, did you get a good deal? So people will always default to how much they paid, but they never tell you about the full truth. What's the full truth? $27,000 because, you know, all those taxes, not taxes, you know, interest. That's kind of nuts. But I don't know. What's going to be coming up with sheep? You know, I know you're coming up.
Everybody's got their own perspective on the market outlooks. We've been having such big runs. In San Angelo, that's the next biggest market. They're actually bigger than Fredericksburg, but they're kind of got a flooded market. They had 8,000 last week. Fredericksburg had 5,000. We imported 75,000 from New Zealand. Why? And our prices are down because we got too many here. And why did we do that? Why did we pay New Zealand's for 75,000 sheep? And we're flooded with them here. You know, you talk, and they got a meeting coming up in July for the Texas Sheep and Goat Raisers Association in Kerrville. I'm going to attend, and they're going to try and slow down. You got a fair trade agreement. You know, if you don't need sheep, you know, you shouldn't have to. We got them right here. They can bring more here for the producers instead of paying to get them across the pond over here from New Zealand.
I guess it's one of those things too. Then people have this idea that, well, people in different parts of the world do things differently, raise them differently. So there might be a possibility that it'll be better than what we have locally, and what's grown in the U.S.
We're small scale. You're right.
So,
So New Zealand Dorpers are coming into the market?
Oh yeah, they have been for years. Australia, we import a lot of sheep.
Yeah.
And export, we export some, but we need to, you know, basic import, export, fair trade agreements, and a lot of sheep from here, from the local auctions, go to Mexico. And yeah, I loaded out Tuesday night, like 11 o'clock. There's semis, and I know the regular sale barn rigs there, trucks and trailers, and there's some you don't ever see before. Where do all these people come from? Where do they go? 5,000 animals.
Yeah. Are you taking those type of things?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. So if you were to go over to San Angelo, you know, you do the same auction thing. You could bring your trailer and look and go play that game. Are you thinking about doing that sometime?
Oh, I'd like to expand. We're in the hub right here. You got Fredericksburg. Goldwaite's got a decent sale. In Hamilton, San Angelo's about 3 hours away, and I'm a little guy. I got a job that I go to every day, and then for the freight on that, driving 3 hours to San Angelo, and I'm buying some $30 sheep. My gasoline's costing more than my sheep.
So it doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah, for a person as small scale as me, but if I had a buyer over there,
it could be,
yeah,
it could be interesting, right?
Yeah, if I got big enough, because I'm got the back four here, I can deal just with Fredericksburg auctions, do pretty good. If I got a little bigger, I'd have to go to more auctions to get the product that I'm after.
Right.
You know, because there's probably 20,000 sheep and goats being sold around these auctions here weekly, and I'm seeing 5,000 of them.
So you picked up more sheep, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's last auction. Are these already? They already have prospective buyers? Or are you about to go ahead and start? Are we gonna throw? Or is there soon gonna be something out there that? Are you taking in callers? I guess right now
Yeah.
for your sheep.
Yeah, and I've had really good luck with the internet marketing.
Yeah.
Oh, Steve, he helps me with that, and that's worked out really good. And I think they'll sell on the internet, but I'm doing the backgrounding process, make sure everything's healthy. I can guarantee it, just good reputation stock. That's what it's all about.
Right. So we're going to have a group coming up for sale in a few days. And, it's about 20 sheepies, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So they're looking really good. So I believe that's all the stuff that you just picked up at the auction this last week.
Yep.
Right. You're going to sell it all in one group buy.
Yep.
So you sell it for one big chunk, and you're going to keep all your lambs that you're using as lawnmowers to keep the grass clean.
Yeah.
And you're going to hold on to them for a while longer, maybe a month or two.
And then I'm going to
pounds.
try the internet marketing on them, just kind of unconventional.
Right.
They're pretty cheap prices right now. They're pretty soft right now because there's so many flood the market, basic supply and demand. And there's more supply than demand, so I can get in there and buy some.
But do you think that the market isn't even finding its customers a lot of times? Because you have a couple different markets. You've got the stockyards, and you want to call that a market, or you can do the end user sales like you've been doing.
Yeah.
Where you reach out and say, I got 10 sheep, give me some cash, and you can have the sheep. And you get more per pound if you find an individual buyer than if you go to these yards.
Yep. Because that's the true value of the animal. You go to the auction, somebody doesn't want supply and demand, that's the true value of the animal. Right there.
I don't know.
Would that wouldn't it be more of the form of control of the market?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say someone at auction is only willing to pay $40 for it, right? But then you met Jerry down the street. Jerry said, "Dude, I'll give you $80 for it."
Yeah.
So therefore, it depends which avenue you're going down, right? Would be the true value. So there is no set true value.
Well,
correct.
Right, and it would be per market, because there's a different market at the auctions than there is outside in the free world. We've talked about selling bulk buy sheep, let's say a 10-pack for X amount of dollars, and or one sheep for X amount of dollars, right? You've got different customers. You've got some people that want a single sheep for food. Right, so I want to buy one sheep. I'm gonna process the little thing, and I'm gonna have meat. What are you gonna pay? $1 a pound, $2 a pound. You get a little lamb.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, how many? You got 40 pounds of meat for what? $40?
Yeah.
$60? Depends how you
yeah.
do it. That's a different market. And so as we're bringing all these sheep in from New Zealand, they're coming into what market? Well, they're coming into the auction houses, and so they're bringing those in a diesel truckload. They're competing with everybody else that are trying to raise their.
Then they've got their soul. They've got a market here. They don't go through the auction. They've got a market already.
Really, where is the market? Dog food, cat food, things like that.
Human food. They go to a lot of them go to Fort Worth, the big packing houses, and they bring them in on a boat, and they take them to the packing house, go directly there. And that's where a lot of these buyers, most of this stuff from the auction, that's where it goes, to the packing house.
Okay, so let's talk about the meat. Let's talk about, lamb.
That's where it all ends up.
Can you go to a store and find lamb on a box, a package?
I think HEB sells it.
It sells some lamb. Okay, so you can get some frozen lamb, and where else can you find lamb in the grocery store? You can find it in dog food and cat food, right? Maybe some, ethnic foods. I'm not too
Outback
sure.
Steakhouse.
But definitely some of the ritzier things will show. We serve lamb, right? But then that's very minimal. I don't think Cisco has a bunch of lamb available. But Benny Keith, I'm sure, has a bunch of different lambs they can sell you for your little hoity-toity
B&B.
Crossroads.
But generally speaking, where does all this meat go? Right? There aren't that many shawarmas being produced in the United States. Lamb all strung together like the Mediterranean food. I know in Mexico they eat it, right?
Yeah, barbacoa.
Barbacoa, and of course you can get barbacoa you can get that in HEB too. Don't they have like a barbacoa
You
thing?
can get it hot and fresh,
Mhm.
and the uncooked and everything like that.
Right, it's chunks of meat.
I think it's just because we're in Texas, though.
Yeah, maybe so, but there's nothing wrong with lamb as far as food goes.
No.
It's a good tasting animal, but everybody, I don't know, we like hamburgers. I wonder if sometimes some of your McDonald's food or your Burger King, actually, because those are hamburgers, but that doesn't mean that they're all cow, right?
It's just
They're cow with other things added, and they have unique flavors. But are there lamb in there? They don't disclose anything about what their meat is, right? That's a trade secret, right? They make their burger. And I just wonder how far lamb goes into our food supply.
McDonald's, they buy their meat, a lot of it comes from Brazil. They import it.
So they're Brazilian cows?
Yeah.
Or is it Brazilian cows and Brazilian sheep and goats?
Brazilian cattle. McDonald's, they get a lot of theirs from Brazil. And a lot of this is imported into the country. You go eat your hamburger, it's imported.
So every time you go to McDonald's, technically you're
Eating a Brazilian.
You're eating a Brazilian, but you're in a deeper sense you're supporting
Brazil.
Supporting Brazil and taking away from the market of
The United
States, because versus telling a big corporation like McDonald's, well, dude, if you're gonna export this sheep that we have it by the truckloads over here, or these cattle or whatever we have them by the truckloads, well, we're gonna have to charge you more for that.
Yeah.
But instead they're like, no, it's cool. We'll give you a tax break for importing a lot more. And it's like, well, you're destroying our infrastructure.
Wow, with how many McDonald's are in the world, you think Brazil would be like the richest country right now?
Yeah. Our Argentinians, because they're we live pretty good here in the United States.
That beckons another question. Why do all our cows at McDonald's speak Spanish? Is that right? We're an English speaking, so we should be eating animals that spoke English. Okay, that was a bad joke. You guys love
Okay. Well, on the back board, we also have you also have a cow back there.
Yeah.
What's
And,
the purpose of the cow?
Well, right. We'll touch on that. What is the purpose of the cow? But I was kind of interested because you were talking about a new thing you're trying to do. You were dividing up the waters.
Yeah.
How's that all working out for you?
Well, I'm utilizing rotational grazing back here. I have 4 acres, and it's cut up into 4 pastures, and I leave the sheep, got 39 head, that they'll live on grass for a week on 1 acre. And then I move them once a week, and I call them cells, pastures, like a little jail cell. But they get 30 days of rest, and then they'll support those sheep for a week. And so it gets 30 days of rest, and 40, that's a pretty good number. For right now, I got 1 cow to eat the bigger grass, because the sheep.
So you just added a new water trough, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
That was the blue one out back here, right?
Yeah.
She couldn't find it, right?
No, she's used to the one behind the house.
So how did that play out?
I think she found it yesterday. It may have got hot enough that she's venturing for some water. She's kind of.
But didn't you trick her?
Yeah, I changed. It was a red water trough that she's used to. I moved to the red water trough, and she comprehends now that that's water. Red equals water.
Right.
I reckon.
Wow, that's entrainment.
Yeah.
You're kind of sneaky.
Yeah.
Smarter than a cow.
Be smarter than the animals you are.
Fredericksburg Tea Party.
I'm smarter than the cow.
Smarter than the cow.
We're smarter than a cow.
Maybe.
Moo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So why did you get that cow in the first place? Because I know you're doing the sheep thing, and initially you said that it was kind of an impulse buy. And
Yeah.
you were just looking at sheep and said, "Oh my God, a cow!
I must have this cow."
Yeah,
I must have this cow."
I couldn't pass her up for the price.
Mm.
It made
She was a good-looking cow, and she had a calf.
yeah, it was financially smart.
So we do call her a cow, right? Because she's had a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and if they don't have a kid, they're called
A heifer.
A heifer.
I thought it was the other way around. You know, honestly, I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a heifer if they hadn't had a calf, and if they had a calf, they're a cow. And she's got a calf.
Reminds
Now,
me
is
of
a bull a
Martin
cow?
Marcos Martin
A bull is a male that's
But so we wouldn't
still
technically.
intact.
But he's a cow, or he's not a cow.
He's cattle, I reckon. They're all cattle.
But you wouldn't call him that. You call him a bull.
Yeah, he's not cow, he's a bull.
But a bull only still has his.
Yeah, he's
his
still
components,
intact.
right?
Yeah, he has all his components.
Right, and then they're no longer, are they called something else after they're
Steers.
castrated? They're steers.
Yeah.
See, so there is different terminology.
Yeah, there's a lot of terminology out there for it.
cattle terminology with Fredericksburg Tea.
Well, this is a learning thing.
Oh yeah, the general public doesn't know. Like, say if your kids are learning that in school, they don't learn that in school.
Right.
I didn't know that before.
Yeah, but if you're in FFA, 4-H, all those kids know that kind of stuff.
What is FFA?
Future Farmers of America.
Ah.
And they learn that in school. You get to high school, 8th grade, but if you're homeschooling, you can do that at home. And they learn more at 6 years old than you learn at FFA. Like that stuff, if you stay with it, you're gonna figure it out eventually. Like I went through FFA, but I did more at home than at school. Like I showed animals.
One of the problems I always have when people start talking about 4-H and FFA is the National Animal ID Act, right? And how that act, within the National Animal ID Act, they're talking about microchipping all animals, all livestock, all pets. And one of the things you need to do is to sign up for 4-H or FFL, Future Farmers, FFA, or whatever we're calling it. You have to tell them where your property is, right? In doing that, it actually tags your property with a number. You're actually now signed up. Now, the National Animal ID Act never came down the pipe. We should expect that coming in sideways, like in Wisconsin and a bunch of other states where they did have mandatory tagging, right? So you have to buy these RFID tags so they can track that animal, and they had to track the animal. You have to make reports and have scanners and all this other stuff, and reports on who came onto the property, and wow, it was crazy. You don't remember that, huh? Right when I got to Fredericksburg, I was freaking out about it. I'm like, what? You want to chip my animal? And you're going to scan them? And if somebody comes onto the property, you have to document it, and then they'd audit you and all this other stuff. And
Like I'd have to document, or
The owner.
The
owner.
An enforcer comes around. And
well,
documents.
the enforcer just looks at your records, right? So all your sheep are tagged, and you're going to have to scan them, and you have to keep notes on everything. And you have to have them in a location, right? And the location has to have a location identifier. And so if anybody comes onto your property, they could be, having issues. You better keep notes on who comes onto your property. So NAIS, as it was called, National Animal ID, whatever, it's kind of being written into other different areas. The farmers really got pissed off at NAIS, and it didn't make it through. There are some states that still have a form of that, but the beginning of stages are in the Future Farmers Association and 4-H, right? The 4-H will teach you about stuff, but it also teaches you about filling out forms and following processes and procedures. And for what? I'm not too sure. You've been doing sheep for a long time. You ever do that 4-H?
Yeah.
FFL,
Yeah, I showed goats and cattle
So why did you do that?
for a project.
For a project?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
it's totally different. Like you got show animals, and then like we had that at the meeting, but had a market show animal. But I've just got. I'm
So
trying to
why
make
did
a
you
living
do
at
it?
it.
What made you do? Because we've talked about this before in the past. How much you've been around animals all your life,
Yes.
and you were going to school. I take it and decided, hey, I want to do 4-H, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do a 4-H pig. Or what
Yeah.
do you end up doing?
Yeah,
A
goats and cattle.
Goats and cattle.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because at your home they did a lot of goats and cattle.
Yeah, that's what we had. So that's what I
What benefit did it give you in
doing that? Just the fact that you actually did it?
I guess kids learn responsibility through that, through raising an animal, feeding it, and tending to it, and they learn because they look at it every day. They're going to learn something from it.
Right, and then through 4-H and FFA, you get like certificates and rewards, don't you? And
Oh,
if
yeah.
your animal places.
If they make the
like
premium sale,
Yeah.
you can recoup all your costs. I'm not sure what they bring down here, but up there is $1,500 for a goat, and you can buy the project for a couple hundred. If you got a champion animal, that covers all your costs and your gasoline for going to shows, and covers the whole project. If kids dedicated to it, they'll win. That's just like with sports.
So like with like right now, like you wanted to be a part of 4-H, and you'd have, I guess, it's a kid program, it's a youth program. So would you approach the school, or would you call F8 or the 4-H and say, hey, I got this sheep, I got these dorpers, I was wondering if you wanted to, use them as a,
Project.
kids, with a project or something like that, or do they have people that go around? Do you know if they have people that go around and say, hey, notice you're a farmer and you're a rancher, we're looking for partners to help us with the project that we're doing this week or whatever.
Yeah, you contact your local county extension agent.
Okay, so that's something else that agent helps you do.
Yeah, and he'll get in contact with the ag teachers, the FFA teachers, and then they'll get to the kids, and then they'll come out. If you got a quality product, they'll come out, and they'll buy them.
Okay. And then they just, so you won't have anything to do with them after that. They just
Right.
buy them from you.
Yep, it's a private treaty.
Yeah.
Private treaty, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's what, instead of, like, either you market your animal at auction, like you have a sale, whether it be at the auction barn, or say if I had my own auction out here, it'd be private treaty. Just like say if I sold you a sheep for X amount of dollars, that's private treaty.
Okay, so
It's
it's
in
like
private.
a personal agreement or just a one-on-one sale.
Yep.
Okay. Versus going.
What
like
kind of
every
prices do they pay, about market rate, or do they
Oh,
pay
it'll be
less?
show lamb bring $300 to $400, and market that same lamb's worth maybe $100 bill.
because of the fact that it's bigger.
Yeah.
There's more to choose from, I guess.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Hey Frankie, there's one subject that I'd like to cover a little bit before the end of the show. Mind if I kind of push you a direction real quick?
Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. We got 10 minutes talk time for sure.
Right.
So, one of my big questions for you this week is, hey, where's that tea party going? Have you seen the tea party, folks? I know you have. You actually went to one of their things.
Okay, well, alright, before we go down that rabbit trail, I want to say thank you, Todd, for being on. As always, it was great to have Fredericksburg Tea Party here. Look forward to seeing further developments on, because we're going to have a contest, right, about when we're going to give away one of the sheeps, right? You haven't sold Mopsy, have you?
No.
No, okay, so remember, Mopsy, ladies and gentlemen.
Mopsy, say the name.
Mopsy, Mopsy, Mopsy.
Yeah,
So,
so we got some listeners out there interested in sheep.
you know,
Need to tune in.
We're going to be giving away a sheep. We'll be giving Moxie away.
right. Okay. But yeah, as always, man, it's great to have you on. Thanks, and we'll be talking to you next week again.
All right.
More of what's going on the back floor.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Right on. All right, now the question at hand. Typical Steve. The question at hand is, how is the Fredericksburg Tea Party? Well, I went there, tried to go. They recently just had a meeting, right, where they had a guy who was a lawyer that specialized in terrorism. What exactly that means, I'm still a little confused on it too. Because he spent the majority of time instead of sharing information, because I'm an information alcoholic. I love to learn things.
Right.
He spent the majority of time talking and making jokes about the Obama administration, making jokes about Benghazi, the NSA tapping, asking for phone records. He was too busy making jokes and
Belittling
fear-mongering.
them?
Huh?
Belittling them, the events?
Yeah.
Making them seem not that important?
Right. Well, to me, if you approach it in a jestful manner where people died, then you're belittling it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whether you're just trying to shed some light on the subject or whatever, but if you're making a joke out of it where someone lost their life, that's very disrespectful in my but he spent the majority of time, like I said, making jokes and criticism of the Obama administration. He even goes as far as talking about how he worked with the Obama administration, and he was in Benghazi, he was in Libya, he was in Kuwait, and he was at Gitmo, and he promises there's no waterboarding. There's no waterboarding that ever took place at Gitmo, and because he was there, he knows everything that happened there. These are his own words, not mine. But so this is the guest speaker that the Tea Party had. Well, I show up there with an open mind. I'm like, whatever, I've never met a group that was so uninterested by a new face. Like if I was running an organization, and a new person that I hadn't seen last week at our last meeting or whatever showed up into the room, my instinct is going to make contact. Maybe I'm just weird. So I sit there for about an hour plus, right, before someone comes up to me and they want me to sign up for their email. And it's like, well, I got to see what you people are about first before you fill my email with a bunch of spam. I got to see what you're about first. And,
They never did put me on their list because I wanted to see what they were talking about. Somehow they dropped FBGlive from their email list.
And so, while I was there, saw, of course, and I'm not saying that they're racist, but of course, at a typical Tea Party rally, I was the only person of color in the area, and which kind of is a little bit disconcerting because, again, if the Tea Party at the core believes that using the political system, using the system that exists in itself to change the system, right? And, if you're going to go ahead and go by that theory that votes can change the world, which I don't believe, because if that was the case, we wouldn't be living in this nonsense that we live in now. Wouldn't you want to reach out to every ethnicity, every person that's eligible to vote, whether they're race, creed, color, religion, whatever, right? It doesn't seem to be their mentality. They seem pretty happy and content with, we're all retirees or small, medium to small business, medium to large scale business owners, and we're just mad and concerned that the federal government is overreaching and regulating us to the point that we're not allowed to conduct our business and be capitalist and make more money because we don't have enough stuff. Steve, I need you to retile my bathroom and shower again.
They want prettier stuff.
Yeah, it's not pretty enough.
Now, there was a lot of other stuff going on there, right? There was a lot of, I guess, called fanning the flame or fear-mongering or Islamophobia.
Definitely Islamophobic to no end. One of the interactions I get from someone that was there is, I love the people and how they try to approach it, because in case people that don't know, I am very tan and have very mixed racial features. Some people think I'm Mexican, some people think I'm Indian, not feather, but dot. Others think I'm Middle Eastern, Arab is not Israeli, because, definitely not Israeli, because I don't know why that one never brings up, but I'm always Iraqi or Afghani, all these things. I'm like, nah, I don't know what I am, to tell you the truth. I guess I was born in Texas, whatever that makes me. But yeah, it's a constant course, like, every other word, like I said, was a Obama joke from the guy, the speaker. I forget his name. It's like a cup or something like that. But every joke was an Obama joke followed by, and you don't hear anything, pre 9/11. It was all Islam's terror, Islam's terror. And now that Obama's in, you don't hear nothing about that. You don't hear nothing about the radical Muslims that are burning flags and beheading Christians and oh my God, they're coming there establishing Sharia law, oh my God. And it's just fear and race baiting, because and that's really what it boils down to.
And they touched on some very important subjects, right? So we're just dealing with the whole PRISM issue, right? And the PRISM issue is, of course, the government going to different companies and say, give me all your records. And they create complex systems of cataloging information about us. So as I'm sitting there going, well, PRISM is there and it's not what you think it is, and it's all to keep you safe from the Sharia law Muslims, right? And we've stopped a lot of crimes. In fact, we've set them up, right? But that mentality, they're making light of
services that the government has put in place, like PRISM, which is a domestic spying apparatus, making Obama jokes beside them. So now they're belittling the impact of domestic spying, right? You could say nothing else about the government except for creating huge databases at every level looking at you. And the only argument that I've heard like last week was the fact that they're really not looking at you because they're just grabbing all the records and they're sticking them into a database somewhere.
And then, yeah,
and they're only looking at you if they give permission to look at you, and then they can open the file.
Well, I don't
and
even
it's
think
all
it's permission
inclusive.
now. Now it's just suspicion, not so much permission.
Right.
Well, he made a phone call to someone in Russia, so well, we better investigate what he's been doing his entire life.
Right. And you and I, as the human beings that, you know, inhabit this planet, will never have access to this information. This is not for a sheep to see.
Right.
They can write anything that they want. Oh man, Frankie, it's crazy.
But it is definitely crazy. I was really disappointed, and like Steve and Jen both got text messages from me, get me the hell out of here. Because like I said, for a minute there, and again, I'm not calling the Fredericksburg Tea Party racist or anything like that. So, but if you want, blow up my inbox, my email box, or you can talk to anybody to find out what it is. But anyways, I felt like I was at a Klan meeting, you know, because it's all, you know, wipe out them Muslims, Obama's a jackass, Bush is great, and so it just scares me to think that we've made so many achievements or advancements in the movement, or whatever you want to call it,
and I feel
but
that's
yet we're still
shame.
handicapped in a
We
lot of
had
ways.
some good speakers a couple years ago at the Tea Party meetings, but I guess that's not the case.
Well, we're reaching that time again, ladies and gentlemen, where we have to say goodbye, because apparently, you know, we're on time constraints here. We touched on a lot of things, and it's been fun. There's that British lady yelling at me again on Blog Talk. As always, thank you for listening. Spread the word, and keep up. And look forward to the next thing we got coming up. We're gonna have a lot of new things coming around. All right, we'll catch you next week.
Ciao.
I'm just gonna come out and say it. All right, you know why the Fredericksburg Tea Party is like that still, being all racist and all that? Because they're all white and they're all old and they're all retired, and I bet all their children are in the military serving government or whatever, and they're living off their Social Security checks. And once they die, then we can move on. That's how it's gonna be.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But because it's that
Well,
old
see,
generation that still's got the old ways and
Right. The nationalistic
tradition,
yeah.
bring it down.
See, you would think though that if you had your kids and your grandkids, and you know, in some cases, some of these people, your great grandkids, serving in this service, you know, in this military arm, you think you'd be more motivated to not have a war every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about them, but I like my family. Well,
yeah.
to an extent, but I don't know. I don't like any of them. I do not dislike any of them to the point where I'd send them off to go die.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I did this, and I support serving country, so I'm going to influence you to do it.
Right. Zig Heil.
Yeah.
Zig Heil. Okay. Bye again.
FBGlive. It's like confusion, but straightforward.